The stock market is more volatile than it has been in decades. Investors go from overnight success to losing money in unprecedented amounts. Joining us this morning to talk about your rights as investors and to answer some questions about financial planning, David Disraeli. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. You've actually been involved in this for about 15 years in investments and securities.
That's correct.
Question for you, with the market right now, what do people really need to know in terms of asking their broker before they start investing?
Well, right now it's easy to blame brokers for having a bad experience because the market has dropped so much. But what we've seen is that investors have been put in mutual funds and investments that have performed well in the past because they performed well in the past. That doesn't mean that they're not void of risks right now. And very few investors, for example, realize that the stock market in the NASDAQ's case has dropped over half in the last 12 months. So they need to really find out what the philosophy is of the investment advisor or broker that they're dealing with.
What's the best way to do that? Is there an agency that holds records on people that you can call and check for references, or should you just go word of mouth?
Well, there's websites like the American Association of Individual Investors. The NASD has a website. Word of mouth is a good way to do it. Unfortunately, most websites that have disciplinary records do not record any kind of disciplinary action unless somebody's taken really aggressive action. And there's a lot of brokers out there that have put people in volatile investments that have dropped substantially, even though they have no disciplinary past. And we found that out firsthand by taking a look at some of our clients' other brokers' performances.
So essentially, if you are taken advantage of, what can you do?
That's a really good question. I think that the question being taken advantage of covers a broad spectrum of lack of fiduciary responsibility or just outright fraud. And what investors have to do is look at what their investment objectives were, what they communicated to that person, and compare that to the type of investments that they were actually put in. If they're not consistent, in other words, if what the broker invested in is not appropriate for their age and circumstances, the broker is actually liable. And there are several things they can do. For one thing, they can file a complaint. Unfortunately, that's not going to recover any damages. But very few investors realize that they can actually write a letter to the branch manager, explain their circumstances, and in some cases be compensated for that.
So right off the bat, it's important to keep on track with your finances and what investments they're making. You should be getting, is it weekly, daily reports?
Well, now with the internet, of course, people micromanage their investments, but they should compare their returns to what the broad categories are doing, and that's available through just about any financial website.
Any basic general guidelines for people that are looking to invest right now that you'd recommend?
Well, I think that the buy and hold mentality that brokers espouse and what I was taught works for what we call bull markets. That's when the market's in a general uptrend. The problem is when the market drops 20%, 30%, 40%, people with that attitude stay put because they don't know what else to do. What we recommend that people do is that they determine what their tolerance is for loss, or we call it a pain threshold. At that point, they can start to move money outside the market to protect themselves in the case of a down market. But I think that now's a good time to reevaluate and look at what a person's long-term objectives are and find what we call defensive investments that will hold up during a bad market, possibly income-oriented investments as opposed to technology stocks.
And of course, my favorite guideline to this is if you're going to invest, you need to do it for the long haul.
That's right.
Well, thank you very much for joining us this
Thanks
morning. It is 9:29 on this Sunday morning.